Is this fish? This is royalty-free shit music. That's what this is. And no, I'm not into Wicca. This is my Wicca Phase shirt. Wicca Phase sent me some of his free merch. So don't try to peg me as a witch, bitch. I ain't no witch, bitch. Yeah, I was just being instructed in Facebook comments about who runs things and how geopolitics works. Like I don't know. I had 20-year-old dudes tell me how it works, and 20-year-olds up in my grill tell me how the world works. Like I wasn't saying shit 12 years ago that got my old website shut down. Come on, dude. Been at this a long time, dog. I'm getting gray in this. I'm not new to this. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about Walter Bowert's book. This is a good one. Can everybody hear me okay? Operation Mind Control. I see my icons over here. And this is one of the early books on MKUltra that came out in the 70s. It's my soul patch and my beatnik. I'm gonna bring the beatnik thing back. So just like John Marx's book, which I covered I think 3 or 4 years ago, there's an old talk I did on the CIA and the Manchurian Candidate. Let's turn the shitty funk down. Royalty-free funk smells like funk. I got to be instructed by people on Facebook how the world works, who are 10 years younger than me, 20 years younger than me, telling me that my stuff is too conspiratorial. I'm 20. Your work is too conspiratorial. I haven't done anything in the world yet, but allow me to tell you about your life and your website and your work. Get out of here, bitch. And no, I'm not going to dump the gum. I just put it in there. It's organic, juicy fruit. I'll dump it in a moment when I'm ready. But as for right now, I am enjoying this organic, juicy fruit. I kind of like this one. This is all right. Some flute. I'm going to put you guys in a trance with this funky flute. I already answered the Wicca question. It's Wicca Phase. It's not Wiccan. Wicca Phase, and he inaugurated me into the goth boy clique. I'm joking. But he did send me some free merchandise, so I'll wear his shirt. Because Wicca did an interview. That was very sweet of him. We appreciate his sweetness. Sweet Wicca tea. I'm going to turn the funk off in a minute. But we're just getting settled here. We're letting the people roll in. We're almost at 200. Where's all the doctrinal talk? What is wrong with you people, man? I give you day after day, endless hours of talks. And you come here on the stream bitching about where is the theology talk. Every live stream has to get warmed up, bro. You gotta let people come in, let them roll in. It takes people 15, 20 minutes to roll in. Yeah, this is NLP. Juicy fruit gum trim, NLP. Chewing, you mean the autistic audience? Or probably like coming here like ready to transcribe like a damn coder. What's the algorithm for Jay's talk? Let me encode it. I'm muted? Can you not hear me? If I'm muted, how could you hear the funk music? Oh, okay. Somebody trying to pull psyops on me, say I'm muted. All right. Oh, yeah, we're over 200. All right. So, dum-dums on Facebook trying to talk shit to me, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, like I haven't been here forever doing this. And I haven't been through thousands of books on all these topics. The music bed would be a good way to get around the auto transcription AI. Oh, interesting. Good idea. Thank you, New England Publishing Company. I have to think about that. ASMR gum. Does my gum chewing give you tingles? Suckers, nerds. So, I'm always welcome to correction. I'm always welcome to, if I've missed something. People send me stuff I need to see all the time. But don't come at me trying to debate me when you're 20 damn years old. It's really annoying. All right, so Boert's book is 1978, and he comes out with a chapter. Actually, the intro is Richard Condon, who wrote Manchurian Candidate. Interesting. And Manchurian Candidate, right around the time, right before, if I recall, JFK assassination. Isn't that right? Right before. Stray light. It's all my money, dude. God bless. You don't have to give me your last $10, bro. Go give that to the poor. You don't have to do that. But thank you. So, and yes, I'll take my gum out in a second when I parasitically suck all of its juiciest flavors from it. Juiciest flavors. That's my new name. That's a good black guy name. Juiciest Flavors. That's my rap name. Juiciest Flavors. They're almost gone because anything juicy fruit connected or fruit stripe, flavor's gone in a minute. There's like a 50 chew limit. 50 chews and it's done. So could we, somebody else, some other know-it-all was trying to message me 1,000 things about this book that, because Richard Condon wrote the foreword, we should be skeptical. Yeah, I don't have a problem being skeptical with Walter Boert's book. We always say this with any of the CIA books that come out, that they're probably sanitized and they only allow, a certain degree of truth to come out. I know all that. I know. Also, not trying to be mean. If somebody wants to send me a message on the contact page, don't send me 30 pages. I don't have time to read. Every day there's at least 10 messages. I don't have time to read a whole book. Make it very tight, very short. Keep it tight and short. I'm not trying to be rude. I just don't have time. I can't read everybody's personal life story, 30 pages. And I'm saving you time. Like when I get a 30-page message, I just delete it. I'm sorry, I don't have time to read that. It's not being mean. It's just what you have to do. So what if Richard Condon wrote the foreword? Does that mean that there's no truth in this? No. I mean, Annie Jacobson's book is pretty establishment. She's an establishment journalist, but there's still a lot of revelations in her book. So just because something is from the establishment doesn't mean that it's useless, and don't waste my time with being a know-it-all. So Condon makes a good point at the beginning by pointing out that he says, hey, handlers are real. Secret police and secret societies and espionage, this has gone on, counterintelligence agencies in countries since the beginning of time. So why would it be strange that there's such a thing as espionage and conspiracy? Why, just this week, some nerd was telling me on Facebook that he likes my website, but not for all the conspiracy theories. Are you familiar with espionage? Have you ever heard of this? This has gone on since the beginning of time. It's the second oldest profession in the world, spying. It's not a conspiracy theory to talk about the history of espionage. And by the way, we will be taking Q&A, super chat questions. Already got 2. Thank you, Straylight. Thank you, New England Publishing. So Condon says, look, handlers, secret police, this is all real. When I wrote Manchurian Candidate, all of this was in my mind. And Condon even quotes Brzezinski, the famous quote from Brzezinski's 1973 book, Between Two Ages, which we've covered many times here, about the creation of the programmed human being. And that the programmed human being on the macro level in society is really no different than the programmed individual in mind control projects and experiments, right? What Brzezinski shows us, and Brzezinski, of course, went to McGill University, which was one of the hubs of MKUltra. So Brzezinski was there, and he was talking about how important the technocratic era would be, and how all of the electromagnetic, EMF, VLF, all that stuff that the Pentagon and DARPA was pioneering, it would eventually be expanded into the mass population. What is the purpose? Ultimately, the purpose is for the cryptocracy to control the society at large. The control of reason. Millions of uncoordinated citizens easily would be within the reach of magnetic, attractive personalities in the media. They would exploit the latest communications techniques to manipulate emotion and to control reason. As Brzezinski ultimately said, this would release a horror and terror upon the American public, and this would be the Technotronic Society. And again, that's from one of the technocrats. So whether we view this book as an expose or a whitewash from the establishment, it still counts in the globalist book series. So, invisible weapons for invisible warfare. Now, I'm not here to talk about targeted individual gobbledygook. I think a lot of that is silly. All the people who claim that they're targeted individuals, there's no reason for them to be targeted. They're just random people. But there have been cases of, as we said, secret police harassment. East German Stasi would do this. And the 1977 New York Times article, the U.S. develops invisible weapons to enslave mankind, 1977. So the beginning of the book is Psychotronic Weapons, EMF, VLF, and PSYOPs. Now, with all of the surveillance and tracking of everyone everywhere, they don't have to do targeted individual stuff. The only reason you'd be a targeted individual is if you got some kind of sensitive information on somebody. That'll get you killed. But these random people who, by the way, are usually doing drugs all the time and paranoid, if you watch the documentaries on the targeted individuals, there's no reason that they would be targeted. And you say, oh, well, what about mass social experiments? Okay, well, mass social experiments can easily be done through tracking and tracing everybody through their electronic devices. You don't need to target 60 homeless people in Oregon and zap them all day long with psychotronic weapons. Now, again, there are psychotronic weapons. There are. What I'm saying is that I think a lot of that is either schizophrenia or it's one of the establishment promoted conspiracy theories. Right? There's a bunch of these: flat Earth, Mandela effect, CERN, quantum foam, and the targeted individual stuff. Okay, that's my analysis, right? But does that mean that there are no psychotronic weapons, or that people are not tracked and traced, and that they might not stalk people? No, that can happen. But it's not going to be a bunch of damn bums and hobos. Why would you need to target bums and hobos? They're not a threat to the system. It's retarded. And if you watch the documentaries, and I've watched probably 20 of them, right? My intuition, I'm almost always right. My intuition, by the way, all the people that I've chose to avoid over the years in this kind of research, I have a flawless reputation for avoiding dum-dums, right? All of the disgraced goofballs over the years, have I been associated with any of them? I have not, because my intuition is on point, dog. My intuition is razor sharp. So, Richard Condon talks about, or excuse me, this is now Boer, talks about the writing of the Manchurian Candidate. And one of the things about this that's off is that it's pictured as this pioneering program. What is that? This is a little too Dolomite. We need to get, it's a little too Dolomite for me. One of the things that was that's off and is likely propaganda in the book is that the Chinese and Soviets were pioneering mind control and using drugs. That's not true. According to a lot of the research in this book, which makes me think that Condon is Boer is telling us a lot of truth, is that he notes that there's no evidence that the Soviets and the Chinese were really pioneering or using drugs in their mind control programs extensively. So there was a lot of mind control experimentation and programs post-World War II in communist countries, in the Soviet sphere. Mark Hackard has a piece he translated about psychic spies and Soviet mind control tests that you can read at Espionage History Archive. That's good. Psi spies, I think he called it. But they were not extensively using drugs. This was what the CIA in the West pioneered, not the Soviets. Now, that jibes perfectly with all the rest of the research that we've done over the last several years, doesn't it? That it was the Pentagon, the CIA, that was promoting the drug culture. Of course they were. They were promoting abstract art. They were promoting Blow Your Mind Out on Drugs, Tim Leary. And Boer covers all that. He says, the Manchurian Candidate was to become a reality less than a decade after Condon saw his story set in type. It's as if Condon's fiction was somehow a blueprint for hypno-programmed zombies that were to be created. Some of these appear to have been assassins who could kill on cue. Others were informers made to remember minute details under hypnosis. There were couriers who carried out illegal messages outside a chain of command, and their secrets were locked behind PHBs, or post-hypnotic blocks. One of these is going to be Candy Jones. Candy Jones. Candy was a babe in her day. I'll say that. If you remember Esoteric Hollywood, I included a makeup ad with Candy Jones from the 40s or 50s. We're going to get into her story in a minute. And the makeup ad has the Illuminati high symbolism. Isn't that interesting? Right now, you know, at Jay's Analysis, we talk about this being overdone, of course. Oh, where's that ad? It's like a Maybelline or something. We'll find it here in a minute, but here's Candy, first of all, if you're not familiar with Candy Jones, famous story. She was big on the USO tour, right, back in the day. Let's see, Candy Jones ad. Let's see if that one comes up. The only reason I bring this up is because it shows that there it is. They were doing that all-seeing eye symbolism a long time ago. In pop culture, this wasn't something that was just kind of, invented in. Oh, damn it. Where'd it go? In our day. Oh, come on. I hate it when the pictures don't want to freaking load. Well, if you look up Candy Jones ad and you scroll down, you'll see the Google. Here, I'll just do a screenshot. That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, here we go. So she was one of the first test cases of this, the kind of the courier girl on the USO tour. In the circles, there's her. What is that? I don't know. Whatever makeup women do. Makeup. I don't know no damn makeup brands, but you can see here Candy Jones down at the bottom in her lipstick ads. Anyway, so there's Candy for you. And she was one of the first experimentees, at least the story goes. I'm not aware of a complete debunking of the Candy Jones story. There could be some debunking out there, but it seems to line up with what you read elsewhere. But we'll get to Candy here in a minute. So the justification was, well, we got to do all this because the commies are doing it, right? The commies are doing all this. We got to do all this. Are you starting to see a pattern here, right? Saddam's got weapons of mass destruction, so we got to preemptively strike. Well, the commies are doing all this mind control. We got to outdo them, and that's just what it takes to be an American. So they experimented first with the idea of people who had PTSD. Boert notes that the names of the programs would change. They just changed the names. How many times have I told you that it didn't go away? They just changed the names of the programs. Boert says that eventually it morphs into a lot of biochemical research. Yep, been telling you that. And it's inhumane. It results in a soul/mind rape is the problem with this. And that's because the people who rule this are a cult of intelligence. Yeah, that's a famous book, The Cult of Intelligence, right? Is that Victor Marchetti, I think? So all government agencies were at some or varying levels involved with this. It wasn't just the CIA. That's important to see that we think of this as the CIA's MKUltra program, and it's fine to say that, but it's important to understand that this included naval research. It included elements of the FBI, and that's why Boert, according to everything I've seen, Boert's the first to use the term cryptocracy, and this is the deep state. That's who the cryptocracy is. While the CIA, near the top of the pyramid of the intelligence world, has been drawing most of the fire, evidence of cryptocracy clearly implicates also the NSA. It also implicates the DIA, the Civil Service, the ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, Justice Department, Bureau of Prisons, Bureau of Narcotics, Atomic Energy Commission. What did I just say yesterday on Primal Edge Health? This. National Science Foundation. Exactly. Because it's mad scientists. And a host of private industries. So, sorry, libertarians, this is not a government problem. It's a corporate-public partnership problem. Private partnership problem. The cryptocracy invades the privacy of citizens and corporations. It meddles violently, oftentimes, in the internal policies of other nation states. It hires, trains, and equips mind-controlled assassins. It engages in coups, blah, blah, blah. This is the cryptocracy. It's not just Zionists, by the way. So, that is our opening thesis. And I thought that was great. I did not know Boert was the first to use the term cryptocracy. Unless somebody knows of an earlier usage of this. He goes on to say what is true and false in the Richard Condon works. And he says, dreams do show suppressed memories of events. And then he's going to try to go into this. Now, this is the first kind of controversial thing, right? When we come to discussions of mind control is, does the programmed assassin, does he actually suppress memories? Is this true? Is this mind control fiction? I was trying to get a good... you can never find the old movie posters. When you pull it up, they just pull up all these crap posters. The originals are what's cool. So let's get a little bit of Manchurian going here. And ironically, this movie itself includes some people connected to mind control programs. Here we go with our predictive programming meta analysis here. Revelation of the method for old Frank Sinatra, FBI informant if I recall, and BFF with all the mobsters. Why, what do you know? He's involved in the mind control movie, the premiere one, isn't he? No surprise there. So the idea of suppressed memories coming forth in dreams, the reason it ties into MKUltra is because they started researching, the Air Force was researching amnesia and hypnosis. And, oh, by the way, he talks about the possibility of people being sheep dipped. If you don't know what sheep dipped is, go watch the Corbett documentary on Timothy McVeigh. He says this is all real. We all know this kind of stuff is real. If we know that stuff is real, it's all mainline military history. Why does it seem strange that the rest of this stuff would be real? Skeptics out there. Right? So you can dispute to what degree or extent different aspects of this is real, but the overall thrust of this is not. It's not disputable. There's no debating it. So the first thing he did, he says, was he put out a story of a guy, or he put out stories in military magazines for guys who wanted to tell their story, but kind of do it on the down low, and he would change the names. And I don't. There's nothing in these stories that's unbelievable. There's no, super soldier. I was beamed to Mars, and I saw Nurgle, and Elvis on Mars, and we met up with a Bigfoot, and we beamed ourselves back from the future. None of that kind of bullshit that you hear on YouTube. They're all very realistic sounding stories. And the first one is that the guy who was one of the first, he thinks, experimentees in a secret Air Force base in Guam called the Marbo facility. So I was not familiar with the Marbo facility in Guam or near Guam. But he does talk about that already at this time the Air Force and the military was trying to collect files on everybody. And he said he was kind of blown away that they had files on the IQs of everyone. I don't know if he literally means everybody, but he was saying it seemed like everybody. And this is 60s, so I think this is 60s, yeah. He says they were already, doing computer analysis and research and getting computers to try to file everybody and basically profile. Now that's interesting because in the Prisoner series, and if you get Esoteric Hollywood 2, my prisoner analysis will be in the book. If you haven't watched the Prisoner series, definitely something you need to see. One of the most powerful presentations of predictive programming, geopolitical dialectics being exposed, all in the 60s. It is truly an amazing TV show. Only 17 episodes. If you don't know about this, you don't know anything. You got to go watch The Prisoner, and you will see all of this laid out in detail. One of the things that's laid out in detail, by the way, here's the great picture that Mark Hackard made for one of my essays. here that comes up right away. That's cool. Here we go. Yep. In The Prisoner, there's an episode. I think it's the episode called The General. I think it's a giant AI supercomputer that profiles everybody. And this is in the 60s. Now, I'm not saying that they had AI necessarily in the 60s that was able to do, like, you know, super duper stuff, but the guy is saying that this is what they wanted to do. Well, obviously this is what did happen, so I find that to be pretty credible. Prisoner my ass. Why do you have a problem with The Prisoner? This is an excellent TV show. Shows you dialectics. Curtains, what's your problem? What's your problem? I have to start deleting dummies in here. But another thing that's shown in The Prisoner is all the MK Ultra stuff. Everything that is in this book is presented in fictional format in the 60s British spy show. Large-scale computer AI analysis, sex operatives, geopolitical dialectics. Prisoner shows that the Cold War is phony. Did you know that? I want to know what Curtains is talking about. So he's talking shit. What's up, Curtains? Talking shit? What's up? Back it up, dog. You better back it up. Back up your talk, or you're going to get deleted. I'm on a power trip. Number 6 is number 1. Oops. Did you know the theme song of the show gives it away? Where Curtains at? Talk your smack, Curtains. Oh, Michael Tessarian. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Prisoner show is great. You gotta watch it. Pay attention. And buy my analysis in my new book. They use Secretary as a cover. This is in one of the Mark Hacker translations at Espionage History Archive, where the NATO used secretaries as sex operative honeypot covers. So that lines up with real testimonies in reality. So this guy's story seems very believable, and he had to do all kinds of things like robotically recall conversations. So they were trying to use his powerful memory to see if they could achieve total recall in terms of memory studies. So I would say that's plausible, that guy's story. Hypnosis, total recall, memory. Then in the next chapter, we have an interesting analysis of the Green Beret guy who was captured in 1963. And so he was a POW, and he talks about how what he was told would happen when he was caught by the Viet Cong was that they would do all this horrible stuff. And he said he was surprised that when he got caught, they didn't do anything of what he was told they would do. And they basically just told him the truth about how the U.S. lies and how it uses excuses for its expansionist imperialism, and that they don't use drugs. So he thought that they were going to undermine his morale and his self-image, and he said that the Russian and Eurasian approach to PSYOPs has pretty typically been to actually just tell the truth. In that it's actually the imperial ethos that is then forced to make up all the lies. I would say there's some truth to that. I think so. The CIA and the POW, in other words, what he goes on to argue is that the POW stuff, not that there have not been POWs, but that the Pentagon intentionally exaggerated the POW threat to justify all of this Cold War buildup and lies. And the U.S. is who used the drugs, not the Russians. It is the CIA that came up with the term brainwashing, and the term was used in the Cold War to say that this is what the Reds were doing. So now we got to do it to combat the Reds. You see the justification here. This was wide-scale propaganda. It was all Cold War fear. And this is fascinating because he says that the Rand Corporation and the Pentagon rolled out this psyop of mass Cold War fear and then put out this line that all the troops who were critical of the U.S. were collaborators with the Reds. And you say, no, I find that hard to believe. Look at how it runs now. It runs the exact same, doesn't it? You're a Russian bot if you criticize the narrative. Can you believe that maybe it wasn't that different back then? Saddam is throwing babies out of incubators. We got to go invade there. Never mind all the other dictators in other countries. Never mind that the CIA trained Saddam and put him in power. Never mind all that. Just fall for the latest war propaganda. And so he talks about the POW psyop. I've often wondered if the POW stuff wasn't some level of psyop. But I never really found anybody extensively, documenting it. I do have to stop every now and then and monitor the chat so that I don't get attacked by YouTube. Except late for supper. Yes, you said that MK Ultra was just one particular program. Yeah, I know. I talk about that every time I talk about MK Ultra. Oh, Rambo movies. They are prisoner of war psyops, aren't they? Exactly. Oh, yeah, let's not forget John McCain. He fits perfectly into the POW psyop, doesn't he? Exactly. Things are starting to fall into place, so we're starting to realize, oh, wait a minute. Maybe all that Cold War gobbledygook that the OSS was spilling, and it was the OSS who began all the large-scale media psyops at CBS and NBC. They're all OSS men who started that. Let's see. Here's an interesting tie-in. Henry Cabot Lodge, who, according to Quigley, was one of the banksters' agents. The CIA memo from 1953 addressed the chief of the CIA's plans and preparations, and it contained a report of an exchange that took place between the UN ambassador Henry Cabot Lodge and an unidentified CIA agent. The CIA agent began to brief Lodge on the germ warfare confessions of Schwabel and others who, according to the memo, expressed a profound distaste for the entire matter, the difficulty of explaining away the film and the statements of the American POWs, blah, blah, blah. Basically, the line of the POWs was not matching up with what the Pentagon wanted, is the purpose of all this. So, and then he goes to talk about how it wasn't the Viet Cong and the Reds that were using chemical biological agents. It was actually germ warfare developed by the Pentagon to be used in the Korean War, and I covered that extensively in Pentagon's Brain. Right, Agent Orange and all that. Again, these countries did not have the capabilities of, especially somewhere like Viet Cong, right? They didn't have advanced capabilities of. Why are you talking about Alfred North Whitehead? I think I need to delete this dude. You're done? All right, yeah, you're done. Get out of here. Delete. So anyway, we are going to take super chats. I see that we got almost 300 people. No super chatters. There's no one benefiting from this. That's what keeps me going, y'all. Let's move the prisoner out of here. And so we talked about the POW psyop. John McCain, that fits in there. That's a good one. And his made-up stories, his tales. That's probably why John McCain got promoted, right? He helped with this POW psyop. Exactly. Good point. Yeah, right. Starting to make sense. I never thought about this. John McCain as like a POW psyop man. maybe that's why he was so big. Next, we talk about Dr. George Estabrooks. We've covered him extensively. He was a pioneer hypnotist in the 40s. He claimed to be able to... Thank you, Princess Horsefeathers, $20. Appreciate that. Long time Jason Ellis reader. Thank you, Ryan Young. Very much appreciated. If you guys have any questions, super chat the questions. So Estabrooks, he's the one who claimed that he could do the hypnotic courier stuff. He says he could create the sleeper cell agent and all this stuff. And it's kind of debated to what degree Estabrooks was really able to do this. However, what was relevant in terms of the establishment's perspective was the behaviorist approaches to these experiments. And so this is where we begin to see that the Rockefeller funding of B.F. Skinner that we talked about last night on Primal Edge Health, the Rockefeller funding of J.B. Watson and J.G. Watkins, who was a hypnotist. The idea was that through hypnosis, you could create and change people's worldviews. You could change their inner structures of belief through hypnosis, and then, of course, later drugs, right? You could also implant memories. This is what the hypnotists were claiming. You could put people into trance states. So you have all this decades and decades of hypnosis research that is also tied into MK Ultra. And the way this could be easily relevant to people losing their shit and becoming shooters or killers or madmen is that it's said that some of these people were highly susceptible, and if you changed their worldviews, you could make them into extremely antisocial individuals who might lose their mind. So it doesn't require... There's another prisoner image, by the way, showing the global dialectic of the grand chessboard of Brzezinski. If you could put people into these hypnotic medicated states, you don't have to have, some killer assassin brought into some lab somewhere. All you got to do is have them sitting watching TV all day, dosed on SSRIs, and put into catatonic trance states through television and all the frequencies. And you're going to have a whole population of potential madmen killers. We've seen recent events, haven't we, of supposed patsies and individuals. I can't mention those events or YouTube will just shut things down. But events, we'll call the events. There have been events. So anyway, the idea was, who cares about individual dum-dums? Let's figure out how to make this into large-scale social engineering, changing people's paradigms. I don't care about some individual dum-dum or individual bum-bum on hobos on the street. The demon hobos of Twin Peaks and Prince of Darkness. We don't care about them. We want to turn the population into possessed hobos. Soviet tests were, according to him, somewhat lagging behind. They weren't up on all the drug stuff. Rand Corporation put out a study about hypnosis and the implanting of false memories a long time ago. The Rand report outlined the procedure of eliciting false confessions, implanted memories, get this, and how to put people into hypnotic states through sounds, and how to create fake guilt through fake confessions. So don't always believe a defector's confession. Interesting. Why manipulating and putting people into trance states through sound vibrations and different sounds, that sounds like ASMR, doesn't it?
When I chew my gum, do you get tingles? I'm a YouTube skank. I'm a gamer YouTube skank. Give me $100 because I'm making you tingle. I'm never gonna like you. I'm never gonna email you. But give me your Patreon dollars. I'm a YouTube skank with 5 million subscribers. I'm chewing juicy fruit.
Apparently that's what I need to do. I guess I'm not hot enough to be a YouTube skank, but actually if I put on girls' clothes, I would probably go over very well, and I would get 5 million subscribers, and I could chew gum. I could chew gum and make $10,000 a show. What is wrong with people? What is your major malfunction? Electroshock also being used at this early stage. Yeah, we knew about that. This is interesting. What does he say is the goal of all this? The creation of the zombie. The zombie. The creation of the zombie. He was writing this in the 1970s. Could you imagine, by the way, like if you read this book back then? I mean, it's even still, you talk about this stuff, people think you're nuts. They're kind of catching on, right? But could you imagine talking about this in the 70s? People would be like, you are insane. Get out of here. LSD and Ritalin were studied. Next, we get into the Sandoz Pharmaceutical Corporation. We know about that. That's in Jay Stevens' book. That's in countless books on the subject. That's been public for a long time in mainstream books. The CIA had plans to purchase 10 kilograms in 1953 of LSD. 100 million doses eventually is what they wanted. Tons of LSD purchased for LSD warfare. Sandoz Laboratories produced this. We also know about the Owsley character that Dave McGowan mentions, the whole story of Owsley. Good grief. The song sucks. All right. Thank you, Super Chatters. Very much appreciated. Princess Horse Feathers. Ryan Young, thank you. Zyklon B. Peterson, $2. What do we do about it, bucko? Well, I have talked for a long time about orthodoxy. I think that orthodoxy is the best answer. Yosemite Sam, $5. My grandma's diabetes medication money. Thank you. I deserve it. She does not. Tell her to put down the Twinkies and the Ho-Hos, and you have done a good thing. I told that other guy that if it was his last $10, he should keep it. Yosemite Sam, I deserve Meemaw's Beatus meds. Tell her to go watch Wilford Brimley movies. Roz Nichols, do you think the projected future tech was brought to these elite from beyond the veil? Hence the ability to see the coming future so far in the past. I do think that there's an element to the possibility of getting inspiration or insight through occulted means. So in many cases, this could be, if you look at somebody like Jack Parsons, he was believing that he was receiving his rocketry insights through his ritual magic workings. So there are some people in the occult. There are people who, Watson and Crick, they think that one of them was tripping when he got the idea for the double helix, right? So I would say, yes, the secrets of nature can at times be cracked by contacting that realm and receiving inspiration. And quite a few, actually, people have said this. Aldous Huxley talked this way. They think that it's inspiration from entities. And no, guess what? They're demons, and it's the same methodology and approach as religions have always said demons are up to. Well, it just happens to match up to what Christianity says the demons do. Oh, but no, that's completely preposterous. It's interdimensional beings. It's interdimensional aliens who want to help us by, this is like Andrea Puharich, right? And physicists and people like that who think that they were contacting the Nine. I think, what's a Star Trek dude? I have an article on this about Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry also thought he could contact entities, which, by the way, goes against his supposed atheistic materialism. Oh, what do we know? Suddenly now Richard Dawkins says that the hypothesis of aliens is much more plausible. Oh, guess what? A lot of the elite scientists have all believed in panspermia and aliens. Oh, what do you know? Surprise, surprise. Now, come on. So, yeah, I think there is a case to be made for at least some of the technology getting demonic inspiration from the other side. Not all of it. I mean, humans have the ability themselves to be creative. We have our own natural gifts and intelligence. So it's not all, some secret coven of Illuminati scientists, although that does exist, by the way. There are such things. We're almost to 300 live. Almost 300. Let's get up there. Come on. One more nerd. What do you think about the Genesis 6 narrative, Jay? I have two or three talks and articles on the Genesis 6 narrative. I think that it is talking about angels. There's a lot of argument over that, but most of the church fathers for the first several centuries believe that it's angels. Only a very few believe that it's not. Majority opinion is angels. I think the obvious meaning of the text is angels, but people don't want it to be angels because they think it requires some sort of greater leap of faith or belief than all the other stuff that's in Scripture. I mean, why is that somehow hard to believe? I mean, if you're going to believe in the Exodus narrative or the resurrection, why is it hard to believe that? Gabriel R, $5. Facebook is designed to predispose people to mental disorders. Yeah, we just talked about. Yes, we're over 300. We just talked about that with Primal Edge Health yesterday. Making users become NPCs. Yes. Listen to the Primal Edge talk from yesterday's, and he talks about the biofeedback loop. And that goes back to this. Can you believe it? Goes back to this. Because this morphs into biotech, electronic implants, implantable microchips. It all comes from MK Ultra. Did you know that? Yes, it does. JF, $20. What about the Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard, Aleister Crowley connection? Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. When Parsons was doing his Babylon workings, which he saw science combined with ritual magic basically being the same thing. There's the attempts to bring about the Antichrist, attempts to bring about the end times, all this goofy stuff, because they think that. I mean, I've talked about this over and over and over. This because they think that the Book of Revelation is a magical text. It's not a magical text. It's not a text that shows you how to invoke entities. It's a book about the collapse of the Roman Empire and the establishment of the church in the first century. That's what it's about. But they don't know. But anyway, yes, there is absolutely a connection between ritual magic and science in the person of Parsons. Hubbard, of course, comes out of the Crowleyan ethos. We get Scientology as an offshoot after he graduates from the Cult Creation College. That's what Crowleyanism is the college of how to create your own cult. That's why all the people who graduate from it, they just magically happen to start their own cult, like Gerald Gardner and Wicca, like Parsons or Hubbard and Scientology. So, and then what? Hubbard steals Parsons' wife, Marjorie Cameron, and all the the drama and all that. So yes, but that's all that gobbledygook is one example of one aspect to which you can look at ritual magic and science colliding. And there's a story too, if I recall. The person who did the Hubble telescope, maybe Hubble? Is it Hubble? I don't know. Isn't the story that he did DMT or shrooms and one of the Clockwork Elves? I'm not joking. I think this is the story. It may be bullshit, but I think this is the story. The Clockwork Elves told him to go ask the Rockefellers for a grant to build the Hubble telescope. I think that's right. But you hear all kinds of stories like this, right? And again, Double Helix, they were tripping acid when they came up with that. New England Publishing $20. Do you have a take on David Foster Wallace? No, all my friends have read David Foster Wallace. I've read his essays, some of them. I've read his big fat books. I read he has a good analysis of David Lynch, like Lynch movies. I thought that was a neat essay. I've been listening to his ideas about the repercussions of ironic 90s culture. Yeah, I read some of that. But he never came up with a proper solution. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know a whole enough about that. JF, $2. Thank you for that. I don't want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. I haven't read Infinite Jest. I think one of my good buddies has read it, and he's a big fan of it. But I'm not. Once I started writing my book and writing all my essays and stuff, I lost time. I don't have the time to read fiction anymore. I wish I did, but the way that things work now is that if I take a week off of doing something for the website, like I suffer for it. People will unsubscribe. So it's kind of like like you can't, it's kind of a treadmill. Like you can't ever get off of this treadmill or you begin to suffer for it. So I wish I had more time to read fiction. I'd like to really do some in-depth Dostoevsky analyses. If I read a Dostoevsky novel though and do it, a video won't get, but I'll get 1,000 views on it, right? But you talk about movies, you'll get 10,000 views. Christians believe God has pooped on the toilet. Get that blasphemy out of here. No, I don't watch Vox Day. Who's this guy saying why are you saying I'm muted, dude? Are you trying to mess with me? Mess up my stream? Is it muted? I gotta delete all these idiots in here. What do I think the Holy Grail is? Dude, we're talking about mind control and actual MKUltra projects. We're not here to talk about Holy Grail. That is a good question, though. 308. We're doing good. This is a nice little stream here. Welcome, everybody. I'm trying to find that guy that keeps saying I'm muted so I can delete him because he's trying to fuck with the stream. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. Every day you got to deal with haters. Here he is, Richard Dempsey. All right. Deleted dude. Get out of here trying to mess with me. My crappy funk. There we go. Keeps going out. There we go. Oh my gosh. Seriously? Gordon Clark is like the worst thing out there. By the way, I do have in my book, JF, stuff on the Crowley Parsons stuff. I mean, that's pretty well known stuff, but that made it into Esoteric Hollywood 1. Well, Gordon Clark is an extreme rationalist, and he and his followers pretty much openly advocate Nestorianism. So there's, Van Til and Bahnsen are just far better at explicating theology. Propositions are not the same in the mind of God as in human discourse. That's utterly retarded. And that's the kind of goofy stuff that you get in Gordon Clark. Gordon Clark thinks that the Logos is logic. No, the second person of the Godhead is not logic. So Bahnsen and Van Til, for all their flaws, are actually much closer to Orthodox theology. Van Til, here we are talking about stuff way off the topic, but that's what your super chat questions are on. I'm going to have to answer them. So there's just some really, and I did, back when I was a Calvinist as a young man, I did get into the Clark Van Til controversy. I've read books on the Clark Van Til controversy. It's just really stupid. And all the people who are rabid Gordon Clark followers are total heretics. They're total Nestorians, and you can't even talk to them. They're lunatics. They're the most spurgy lunatics ever. They've been some of the nastiest people I've ever interacted with on the internet. So why would anybody not prefer Bonson to Gordon? Gordon Clark's a fucking retard, dude. Look at Bonson's out there crushing atheists on their own ground. What did Gordon Clark ever do but write boring ass books and send it to his Puritan printer? Get out of here. Dingo Southern. I'm a right-wing podcaster, the Southern AF. I was on TRS. No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to go on anything related to that stuff. Sorry. Yosemite Sam, $4.99. What is the plan for the proletariat once the plutocracy successfully brings everyone into a world government? By the way, we're going to get back to, we still got some more of this to do, but the audience has grown. We've only been an hour. We've got 320. That's good for Jay's analysis. What is the plan? Well, the working class is to be replaced by robots. That's the plan for the proletariat. And then eventually get herded into the mega cities, the big smart cities, because that's the only place where you'll be allowed to live and work. But you'll increasingly not have work, so you'll be on some kind of government AI credit system. That's the plan. It's Jacques Attali. Listen to my Jacques Attali talk. He's the one that seems to outline this the most clearly. Oh, I didn't know that was a Killstream gag saying that somebody's muted. Okay. Talk more about Scientology. Scientology ties into in culture and mind control. Actually, I would recommend go listen to my interview with James Kelly. We have an old show archived, the Cult series, where we did 5 shows on cults. And we go into the exotheology of Scientology there in great detail. Opinion on Billy Meyer. I don't know who Billy Meyer is. So anyway, we're pretty far off course here. Not that I mind. I don't mind you guys asking whatever questions you want to, but everybody should watch The Prisoner for sure. No, I'm not interested in any shows about League of the South or any of that crap. And don't waste your time with Gordon Clark. There's a problem, by the way, that I don't even know where to start. By the way, I've been putting out articles that were old archived articles about Calvinism and nature, will, hypostasis, all that stuff. Go read my most recent reposts of old articles if you're tempted with Calvinism. So anyway. Let me take a drink of water here. Just a brief break. Just a couple minutes. I'm going to sit here, drink some water out of this giant jug. How's everybody doing tonight? I want to thank, again, Wicca Phase. Wicca Phase sent me like 500 t-shirts. Not really, but he should have autographed them. I'm not trying to avoid your question there about Scientology. It's just that we went pretty deep into it in our old talk. In fact, I'll tell you what, let me try to find it. It's something like space opera. I'm going to put it in the chat for you, as long as that works. I think we got different ones we did on it. Yeah, space. Let's see, Hubbard, Hollywood, and then space opera. We also did a really good Jonestown talk, which has gotten really popular in the last few years. So let's see if I can put this in the chat. Here is Hubbard's space opera talk. That's a good one. And then here's the other one. And we approach it from a little bit of a different angle. We don't do the typical repeat everything that everybody else says about Scientology. You can find that everywhere. What James actually did was read a lot into Hubbard's own life. And so he has a unique take. You guys need to go into the archives. I mean, all these questions you guys are answering, this is stuff we dealt with years ago, people I interviewed years ago. Go into my archives and you can find all this stuff. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just saying, like, there's a vast archive. There's almost 800 there's over 800 videos on my channel. 800 articles. How many audios? There's 800 audios probably. So make use of the archives if you can. I'm still trying to repair those. Today's analysis. Like I said, about 75% of stuff transferred over to the new site, but some stuff was lost. So I have to figure out which things were lost. And even in the articles that transferred over, the titles didn't transfer over, and the articles themselves are there, but the titles and all the pictures are gone. So it's just a giant mess, and it takes forever to repair everything. So I do it I repair like 2 or 3 articles a day usually. This is the way I'm going about it. I can't do it all at once, or I'll get too exhausted if I spend every day repairing articles. I don't have time to do this. So you can thank WordPress for that. Jacques Attali. Here, I'll pull up my Jacques Attali talk. Everybody should hear this one. It's I always forget the titles of what I title things. If you put it as Jacques Attali, nobody will read it. Or nobody will watch it because nobody knows who Jacques Attali is in America. But if you title it, some goofy shit like Illuminati Plan for the Future, which I did, then they'll read it. Here it is. So here's the Jacques Attali talk. His book is Brief History of the Future. He's the Kissinger of France, top globalist. Here it is. There you go. What's up, all you nerds? This is a great crowd. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm very thankful. Welcome. 320. We had like 330 earlier. That's a nice crowd. Yes. Attali, who talks about the need for the giant global brain. All right, so next we come to Creepo Tim Leary. And everybody needs to see that Leary says, I'm the continuation of Aleister Crowley. Did you know he said that? Yes. So old Tim and his tune in, drop out, gobbledygook. What a clown this guy is. He's so anti-establishment. He's only like the most establishment person imaginable. Is what he thinks of you. And I knew about Tim Leary and his CIA stuff long time ago. They're back when I was still a trad Catholic, probably about 2003. Of all things, there was a Protestant evangelical site of all things, and it was something. It was, you probably find it like GeoCities type thing or something. Like you could probably find it on Wayback Machine, something like KJV1611.com or something crazy like that. And I mean, dumb idea for website, but they had all these exposés on Leary and the Rolling Stones and LSD. And that was back in 2003. So this has been going around on the internet for a long time. This whole CIA being behind hippie stuff is not new. It was in various books. It's in this book from 1978. But in terms of the internet sphere, not the book sphere. Then the LaRouche Group, LaRouche Pack, the Schuyler Institute, they had a whole bunch of essays that are really good on Bertrand Russell, Royal Society, all that. That's all true. That doesn't mean that the LaRouche organization is legit, or I don't follow any of that. But by the way, Buckminster Fuller, Buckminster Fuller was part of Esalen Institute. I'm not saying that makes everything he says bad, but I was actually going to pull up that clip of Tim Leary and Crowley, which I hope you think that would get me. I wonder if maybe I could reverse it. Nah, I'll just put up the image of the video and you can go find the video where he says that. Where's videos? I posted on my Twitter this week. I carry on the work of Aleister Crowley from Tim Leary. Now, come on. And there was a Oh, here, I'll play the audio. Here it is. Let me turn off the funk. Here's old Tim on late night PBS or whatever. Let's get my screenshot for you. And I can't believe people don't know this. Here's the screenshot for you.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. You know, Crowley said he was in favor of finding your own self and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law under love. It was a very powerful statement. I'm sorry he isn't around now to appreciate the glories that he started.
The glories. Yeah, all that NAMBLA glory, right? Yeah, it's great stuff that was got going. So there's that. Yeah. By the way, I called a t-shirt shop to have t-shirts printed, and the dude, how did we just drop 30 people because I played that Tim Leary clip? Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I will have some Tim Leary t-shirts that say Esoteric Hollywood and will have Tim Leary flipping you off. I'm joking. Not really. But the t-shirt dude didn't call me back. I was like, you don't want business? So I don't know. Maybe he looked at my website and was like, I don't want to make t-shirts for that dude. But yeah, there will be very soon Jay's Analysis t-shirts. I think I'm going to do just like the kind of vaporwave Jay's Analysis, header at the website on the top of the t-shirt. And then another design of like the Byzantine double-headed eagle. So that's my first two thoughts of Jay's Analysis or Esoteric Hollywood shirts. If I do it one that's specifically Esoteric Hollywood, that's a good question. I'm not sure how I want to set that up. We'll see. It needs to be some kind of old school design, something goofy and retro. It would be great if it was if somebody wants to design this, you're welcome to design Esoteric Hollywood to look like an 80s poster. You know what I mean? Like in that cool 80s movie poster style art of some kind. Or I'll tell you who's that awesome movie poster artist guy who did the Spy Who Loved Me? Did he do that poster? Yes. Okay, this guy who does this style of poster, movie poster from the 70s and early 80s. What is that guy's name? I can't think of it, but these are awesome. If somebody makes an Esoteric Hollywood poster in the style of this guy's art, it's like drippy 70s red type stuff. That guy. What's his name? He's a famous artist. The Art of James Bond. Let's see who this guy was. All of his art's great. That didn't tell me who did it. But dude, just this right here, actually, like Esoteric Hollywood modeled on that image, that would be killer right there. Dude, look at that. Is tight. That's a tight ass poster right there, dude. That is the bomb. Look at that. Damn, dude. That's sweet. Have me here, put Jamie there, have Esoteric Hollywood back there. That would be awesome, actually. So if anybody is bored with but you can look up that guy's art. All of his art's awesome. He did one of the Star Trek movies, maybe even the first one too. Those are all good. Let's see, what is that? Oh. The one with Spock, like Genesis or whatever. They tried to mimic his style when he did the original Star Trek poster with like we don't want that. We can't use the rainbow anymore because, that guy, he did that one too. Which that's a pretty badass poster, I have to admit. But what is his name? Somebody in the chat will know his name. What's his name, y'all? Who's the artist that does these? Anybody know? Remember? All of his art's really awesome. Tons of movie posters. Anybody come up with it yet? Peter Max, is that his name? Bob Peak, that's it. Bob Peak's art. Yeah, let's do Bob Peak has some badass art. Yeah, dude. Oh yeah, he did the Excalibur poster. Dude, check this out. This is the bomb. Look at that. That is sweet, dude. By the way, speaking of the Holy Grail, if you watch the movie Excalibur, it is the Luciferian Gnostic mythos. I'm not joking. It is a super duper Gnostic movie. To the core. But that Bob Peak art is pretty sweet, I have to say. Anyway. So yeah, we got to get to the whole Arthurian mythos. We need to do that. We need to dig into that because I've read a good bit on that. But a rework of the Star Trek one, okay, but I don't want people to think Star Trek when they think Jay's Analysis because, you know what I mean? It's not a whole lot of Star Trek, but that is an awesome poster. So, yes, there will be Esoteric Hollywood shirts eventually, long the story short here. And we are going to get back to old Tim Leary here, but I did want to play that clip of Tim saying that he was continuing the work of his satanic master. $10 from Shikai, a shekel for the good goy. Love your work. Have you done a deep dive into Gurdjieff? Ugh. Gurdjieff, dude. Gurdjieff was promoted just like who's the guy who father of the New Age movement and ecumenism. We covered him on a Hoaxbusters talk. I can't remember that guy's name. I'm getting too tired. But if you listen to my talk on, we do go into a little bit of Gurdjieff. I'll put it in the chat. This is basically just people paying for me to recommend old talks. Mystery Babylon. It's the old Hoaxbusters talk. Everybody should listen to this talk. This is a crucial talk. It's the history of public education and ecumenism. But we talk about
30s.
A little bit of Gurdjieff, because Gurdjieff is part of, definitely tied into the New Age positive thinking stuff. So there's that talk. Definitely listen to that one. That's all phony baloney stuff, by the way. Oh, man, I should have made some coffee. All right, let's get back here to Tim and the elites. So already at this time, they started really working with prisoners. So what you see in Clockwork Orange, it's directly out of what's right here. The idea was, can we condition people into being good citizens again and not, like Alex in Clockwork Orange, loonies and droogs. Can we make them droogs no more? Make them no more droogs. And Leary is out of Harvard. It's obvious that he is a CIA plant. He's there to do his job. And he creates the LSD cult. They already knew it was going to be a cult. Leary and company retreated to Mexico, where they attempted to carry on LSD experiments outside of the government's purview. Yeah, right. Outside of the FBI or something, but under the CIA purview. In 1963, they made the Mexican government mad. They moved from Mexico to Millbrook, New York, and established a front called the International Federation for International Freedom, which was a propaganda outfit for the promotion of LSD. Later became the Castalia Foundation. Leary dosed himself all the time. His talks were all made for true believers in the new LSD cult. Always somewhat naive, he predicted that there would come a day when a new profession of psychedelic guides by the establishment, the medical establishment, would give you psychedelic guides to supervise your occult experiences, your handlers. You would get a government psychiatric medical handler to help you. This is actually being promoted now. They're talking about how guided PhD psychologist, psychiatrist, drug trip people will heal you from all of your maladies and your traumas. You're right. He went and he was an evangelist for this at all the colleges. Everybody knows this. And there was a large contingent of people that were not happy with the fact that he was promoting mass drugging and initiatory experiences through LSD. And so how did he convince everybody that they need to be doing this? Well, of course, it's still illegal, but that just made it have its mystique. How did Leary convince everybody? By selling it as a right. Same thing that they do for everything, right? The man's keeping you down, keeping you away from your right to pour Drano in your eyes. The man is trying to keep you down, trying to not let you have your right to be blind. The man is trying to keep you down, not let you have your right to kill your offspring. Quite literally, and it works, right? So he sold it as a right. It didn't technically become legal, although I think eventually it will be legal. LSD has a close connection to the drug experimentation and trafficking of the Vietnam War. And everybody knows that the trafficking of heroin in Southeast Asia was a CIA operation, Golden Triangle. U.S. government ran the heroin, and they do in Afghanistan now. The idea here was, let's use addiction. Let's experiment with what happens when people get addicted. So all of your GIs that were given all these drugs, they were being given the drugs on purpose by the wicked establishment. Your government and your corporate leaders do not love you. So the real drug dealers are not the people on the street. It's the CIA. Yep, we knew that. We've talked about that many, many times. There's gigantic books on it. We've talked about for a long time. And naive dupes are still telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. But they were using prisoners. The Army announced that since 1956, and this is just what they're publicly saying, they had given LSD to 1,500 unwitting servicemen. And including volunteers, 6,940. Some of these drugs, according to the Defense Department, were more powerful than LSD. So you wonder why there's the crazy vets wandering around the streets and stuff. And by the way, sometimes if you talk to the crazy vets that are like wandering around everybody's town, every town has these, they will tell you that they were given drugs by the government, and you know, most people are like, oh hell yeah, the drug government gave you drugs. They probably did, dude. They probably did. So, 2,500 mental patients by 1954 had been experimented on. And eventually, as I've said many times, it becomes the Army's chemical weapons program. It morphs into that. Edgewood Arsenal, Fort Detrick. Then it goes into talking about the results of all these studies, people having flashbacks. They studied all these experiences. This is all well known. If you don't know about all this, if you just trust what the system says, these ignorant people that argue with me, this has been studied to the nth detail. You think the military and the government don't know? They're the ones that gave it to you. You don't think they know what this does? Stop being naive. And some guys, these idiots that argue with me about this and say that, oh, this is all good. It's all good. Depersonalization. One of the first things that comes up. Depersonalization. And what was that dumb boomer on Twitter arguing with me saying? What's wrong with depersonalization? He said, you assume that depersonalization is a bad thing. The boomer guru. I'm not joking. Boomer guru is trying to argue with me on Twitter. The boomer guru, that depersonalization is not a bad thing. Here we go. Here's a perfect image of a boomer guru. It's just extremely arrogant, know-nothings. That's not him. I don't know who boomer guru was, but oh man, we had so much great LSD, man. The boomer guru. You think depersonalization's a bad thing? It's just removing the ego. Whoa, $100, Jason, for that sure. Wow, dude, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But the boomer guru is jealous that you sent me $100 when he could be buying. How many tabs can you buy with $100? I don't know how the LSD works. Seemed like when I did LSD that one time, I had one bad trip and then like 6 or 7 regular trips. But it seems like the one time, because I didn't buy it, I bought it one time, the first time. Seems like it was like $7 for a hit. I don't know. Is that how much it costs? The hanger-on hippies in the chat can say, is it $10 for a hit of LSD? 20? 25? It was $7 for one hit in 1997. Then we get into bluebird, artichoke. There were all kinds of guinea pigs that we don't even know about. Yes. Bluebird, if you've heard, this is often brought up. We're going to keep our boomer guru up here with his rolling his eyes. Ugh. Bluebird assigned the function of discovering the means of conditioning personnel to prevent unauthorized extraction and information. So it was the control of an individual by the application of interrogation techniques. It was renamed Artichoke. It was subsequently transferred to the Office of Scientific Intelligence and then to the however, it retained the responsibility for evaluating foreign intelligence aspects. In 1953, it became they pioneered the LSD experiments. Okay, so Bluebird Artichoke premieres LSD experimentation. I can't see over here. Schizophrenia, which the boomer guru would be like, what do you think's wrong with schizophrenia? Yeah, then we have all the familiar names that I've talked about many times. Artichoke, MK Delta, MK Ultra, MK Search, yeah, all extends from this. Dr. Richard Helms, Mr. Helms, famous CIA guy, is who destroyed many of the papers supposedly on this. The Vacaville facility was part of MK Ultra. The Vacaville medical facility experimented with human guinea pigs. Dave McGowan goes into Vacaville. They experimented with mass drugging, angry young men. They looked for prisoners and mental institute people who were angry young men, and they mass drugged them. So by the 60s and 70s, prisons and psychiatric mental institutes were constantly experimenting on humans as part of MK Ultra. Hypnosis, electroshock, drugs, on and on and on and on. Human Ecology Foundation, we covered that in the John Marks talk and book. Some of the institutions that were connected to MK research include the Department of Health, the National Institutes of Mental Health, Department of Labor, National Science Foundation, Veterans Administration. Interesting. Veterans. Then he goes on to cite John Marks's book. Rand Corporation put out studies on drugs and LSD. I think we talked about that earlier. Here's an interesting one, and this will be in Esoteric Hollywood too. Remember the movie? Obi-Wan Kenobi plays Cardinal Brzezinski, the prisoner, not connected to the British TV show. This movie is Cold War propaganda. I started realizing that, yeah, here it is. If you watch this movie, there's mind control stuff in this movie. And I remember back when I was a trad Catholic, I was like, oh yeah, that movie's so good. I love that movie. Now I think it's ridiculous because it's obviously just transparent Cold War propaganda. If you watch The Prisoner with Alec Guinness, you don't need to see identification. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Move along. Move along. Move along. How's my Obi-Wan? Is it still good? These aren't the droids you're looking for. What's some more Obi-Wan lines I could do? Anyway, these 50s movies are Cold War propaganda. Did you know that? Anyway, there'll be a whole chapter on that in my new book. People don't think about the Fatima, Prisoner, Bernadette, all those Catholic movies in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. These are Cold War propaganda. And this ties into the CIA's doctrinal warfare program, the David Wim Hof book. But, and I don't doubt that commies messed with Cardinal Brzezinski. But I don't think that it's exactly the way the movie presents it, right? Because it backs up the Chinese brainwashing Cold War stuff. Anyway, so he has a good take on all that. He basically backs up the analysis of Wim Hof in John Courtney Murray, Time, Life, and book everybody has to read because the trad mythos is so delusional and strong. Because, by the way, do you know they were tripping acid too? Jesuits tripping acid with JFK and the elite. Yes, sir. Yes, they were. Everybody should read this book. This book is central to understanding the 20th century. And this is written by trad. It's not written by orthodox conspiracy theorist. It's not written by a lunatic guy in his tinfoil hat facility in a trailer park. It's written by a Catholic lawyer. Oh, by the way, body language lie detectors, that all comes out of MK Ultra. Do you know that? So then we have the story of Candy Jones. Candy was originally, as we said, she was a model, and in the midst of her modeling, she was asked to deliver some packages by some FBI general type, general or some FBI guy, I can't remember. And she was like, "Okay, I'll do that for my country." And they, it was all, "Oh, for your country." All right. So she starts delivering packages, and turns out they're like, "Well, we like what you do. You're good at what you do. Let's move you to a different facility. I have a friend here who wants you to meet you. He's from the CIA." So she goes to help with the CIA and the Air Force, and she joins the USO. And I am starting to think that, I'm sorry about this stupid song. I'm starting to think that the Bob Hope mind control USO, I think there's something to that. I think Bob Hope was like a mind control handler. I think that's probably true. I don't have like a perfect history of Bob Hope, but that picture I had of Candy Jones earlier, that's her in her USO outfit. And by the way, doesn't this all kind of match up with the plot and narrative of Alias? I just remembered that. And by the way, I do have an Alias analysis from a long time ago, which is worth checking out. But yes, it does match up to Alias. Interesting. Forgot about Alias. But yes, the CIA consulted on Alias. Absolutely. So, but I would say most of what we hear in the Candy Jones story seems legit, right? It's very believable. There's nothing outlandish in it. There's no crazy stories. She appears to have had alters. She appears to have undergone trauma. And Marnie. This immediately makes me think of Marnie. If you've not seen Hitchcock's Marnie, you must. Because Tippy in Marnie sounds just like Candy Jones. Like the stories of Candy Jones and her husband's stories about her, they sound just like Marnie. And if you watch Marnie, you'll know what I'm talking about, because Sean Connery starts dating. By the way, Hitchcock always has mind control stuff in his movies. He's always got MK Ultra alters. That's like everywhere in his movies. But Sean Connery, he's like dating this bipolar crazy chick, and he can't figure out what's going on. And then he realizes spoiler alert, she keeps reverting back to her childlike state when she was traumatized as a kid. I'm not going to spoil anything else, but basically Candy Jones had the exact same issue, and her alter was called Arlene, and she thinks it was the one that was given to her by her handler. She also says her handler in the CIA was openly satanic. So, again, things do seem to be lining up, don't they? We did a show on Marnie, by the way. Jamie and I have an old Esoteric Hollywood episode on Marnie, if you want to hear that. But her handler develops her alter personality into what it's supposed to be. By the way, if you doubt the reality of alternate personalities, I would say watch this old. Let's see if it's still on YouTube. I always tell people to watch. I need to put this on the website. There's an old YouTube. It's an old HBO documentary. Let's see if this is it. On DID and dissociative identity disorder. Oh, you can also read Colin Ross's book, Osiris Complex, which I have analysis of. But I've watched a whole bunch of these, and I find the HBO documentary to be the most convincing if you were a skeptic. But I'm not seeing it. Let's try to see HBO DIDMPD. Let's try that. Is that it? That might be it. Yes, here it is. So it's multiple personality disorder / documentary, and it's an old HBO documentary. It's had like 2 million views. That's it. I do recommend this one if you're a skeptic to this topic. I found it to be pretty convincing, because a lot of people think that this is just baloney. It doesn't exist. CIA and all these entities, they seem to believe it exists. That's it. If you want to watch it, I recommend that documentary. I found it to be pretty convincing. But I've also read multiple books on this topic too. Not just Colin Ross's book, but also Switching Time. I forget that guy's name, but Switching Time is another book that's good on this. Again, thank you, Jason Fletcher. Appreciate it. Spank me, daddy. Keep it up, my guy. Oh, man. My allergies are going crazy tonight. So there might be a movie, like a B movie or something, like a bad TV movie based on Candy Jones too. I don't know if I see these ads for what looks like a movie, but I can't vouch for it. I haven't seen it. If that's what that is, let's see. Well, they put her face everywhere. She was everywhere back in the day. Here we go. Let's see. Taking control of Candy Jones. No, it looks like it's just an article. It could easily be a movie, though. Surprised they haven't made this. Again, the Alias is probably roughly based on the Candy Jones story. But anyway. So we talked about all the handler stuff. This gets into the typical. The keywords can bring forth the alternate personality. It seems like there's something to that. Seems like that's legit. You know, John C. Lilly talks like he was successful at that. We get stories similar to Vertigo, Hitchcock's Vertigo, right? With the chick who has alternate personalities for Jimmy Stewart. Candy Jones claims she was tortured. And then we get another of the classic mind control MK Ultra tropes, the suicide programming. Is this real? Well, Candy Jones claims it was real. She claims that she was given suicide programming, that in the event of certain things happening, blah, 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 her being found out, her spilling too many beans, or at a certain date, age 30, 35, 40, she's supposed to kill herself. She claims some connection to Agent Intrepid, Sir William Stevenson, one of the key founders of the OSS, along with Bill Donovan, British agent. Canadian intelligence, British intelligence, same thing. William Stevenson. And there's bizarre parallels to Dr. William Jennings Bryan, the CIA's famous hypnotist, or CIA-connected hypnotist. So she claimed to have been known to and by and connected to all these characters. And again, it's not hard to believe. She's obviously, like supermodel level. I don't think she was in any movies, but she's, she's in, USO. And there's an interesting clip that Ken Emme, true free thinker, he has a really interesting video that he put together based on an old Bob. I've never watched any. I don't think I've ever seen a Bob Hope movie, so I don't know like anything about Bob Hope movies. And he puts forth the thesis, which I think is entirely plausible, that Bob Hope. And by the way, I think Bryce Taylor says this too, right? She's another one of these gals that says this. I don't know about, here it is. Bob Hope, MK Ultra hidden in plain sight. That's an interesting possibility. Check out that video. It's worth watching. That Ken did. Already had like 100,000 views. So I'll put this in the chat. I think a lot of people don't find that one convincing. I think it is it's plausible when you read the Candy Jones story. So then we have the he gives a chapter on the history of the cryptocracy. Goes into Wild Bill Donovan, founding of the OSS, FDR, banker man behind all this. Institutionalized secrecy for the cryptocracy. He talks about Miles Copeland, cites Miles Copeland, all the guys we've covered. Who else is covering all these books, by the way? The people that complain about me. Who else is doing this? I mean, there's other people doing valuable research. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying who is like literally reading book by book by book by book the globalists and the CIA handlers and operatives and summarizing them for you. Who else is doing that? Not many. So the OSS is set up in tandem with British intelligence. We all know this. 1942. And they pioneer Psy-War. They're the cryptocracy. They're connected to British intelligence. Colonel Prouty, the secret team. We know about this, right? Secret team discusses. He was part of that cryptocracy. Oliver Stone read Prouty. This, in part, inspires a lot of the Stone movies. And what the Cold War did was release Skinnerian, Rockefeller behaviorism, operant conditioning, and the cryptocracy upon the whole world. So that's the first half of Walter Boert's Operation Mind Control. So in the second half, we will see how the Cold War released cryptocracy on the whole world in a more clear sense. I would like to dive deeper into the Bob Hope thing, see if he... I would give it a 90% chance Bob Hope was a mind control handler, and he probably had all these chicks as sex slaves, right? I mean, probably pretty obvious that's what he's doing here. Y'all are asking about Worski. It really was kind of a mutual thing. It wasn't a situation where nobody was mad at Andy. There wasn't any hatred. It was just a thing where the audience was voting down every show I would do with him because they were mad about JF splitting. And after a month of this, it was like, yeah, I guess we could keep doing this for several months to see if the, views return. They could have, I guess. But I mean, doing these kinds of things, it's a lot of work to do these every day. And it probably doesn't seem like it. It seems like, oh, all you do is sit down and turn on the computer. No, it's actually a lot of work to talk for 2-3 hours every day, or to do multiple shows every day. So anyway, point being was, I just asked Andy, I said, do you think your audience is jibing with me? And he's like, no, not really. So, and I wasn't mad about that, because I was like, yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. So there's no drama. There's no secret. I didn't get mad or anything. It was just like, I don't think it's not the right audience. My thinking was people are looking into, alternative ideas and explanations for things, but a lot of people just want to watch freaking drama on YouTube, and that's fine if they want to do that, but that's not really what I do. So, I mean, if you were to follow, I don't know how these guys follow the drama. Like, how do they keep up with what all these different channels, or who's having drama with who? And I can't even, how do you keep up with all that? I mean, I have a whole subscriber base that I have a duty to, so I don't have time to do all that. Like, if I focused on drama, I would lose all my subscriber base, because they're not here for drama. So it was just two different audiences, and, I thought it would work, and I just don't think it worked. So, I want an audience of people who are interested in research and learning things. And I think people come to hear new things to learn new things. And if you just want to, play games and video games and do all that kind of stuff, nothing wrong with that. But if that's your thing, then you're not going to have a whole lot of fun here. You're probably going to find my channel boring. So that's just the realities of it. Yeah, I mean, I like Medicare a lot. I like Worski. I like all those. I've never actually talked to Medicare or anything, but I think if he's going to take down the skeptics, I support him wholeheartedly. War on. Anyway, so there wasn't any drama. And, I mean, Andy probably doesn't like me. I don't know, but I mean, I don't think I wasn't directly responsible for it, because he and Jeff already were mad, but, I would rather build an audience of people who aren't like, fly by night people. I used to have an old blog, and back when I first started blogging a long, long time ago, my thought was, I'm going to try to get the biggest audience of like big hits, like get a whole bunch of hits. And then I realized, what's the point of getting a whole bunch of traffic if all those people are gone the next day and they never come back, right? What you want is people who are interested in coming back for real information, dedicated readers and followers, right? I mean, there's no point in the flashbang stuff doesn't get you anything. So when I started Jay's Analysis, the second blog, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10 years ago, whenever it was I started Jay's Analysis, I decided to change the format and go for quality audience, quality readership. Who cares about the fly-by-night stuff? It's worthless anyway. So, the growth is slower that way, but so what? We actually get a better quality audience through slower growth than if we just made trash content that, I mean, the movie analyses are evergreen. They're gold. Like, people are going to be, unless the channel goes away, they're always going to be getting hits. But your drama that you had with YouTuber so-and-so, you might get 100,000 views right away. But in 5 years, ain't nobody going to be watching that. And nobody's going to give a shit, because it doesn't matter. But this kind of stuff is evergreen. People will always be clicking on this, and they'll always be learning about this, because it's relevant to today. We live in a giant MK Ultra culture. MK pop culture. That's what we live in. So anyway, any more super chat questions? Thank you again, all you guys that super chatted. Thank you especially, Jason Fletcher, for your very magnanimous gift. Very appreciated. We will, in the next few days, again, don't expect the second half for subscribers to be up tomorrow. It takes a while to put all this together, to make all my notes, my crazy notes in my books, get it together. So it'll probably be 2 or 3 days before part 2 is up. But it will be up, and you will be able to access it in the Jay's Analysis membership section. And if you are interested in a similar topic, we did a similar book a long time ago. So let me pull up the old archived Jay's Analysis talk on John Marx's book. See, it's so far back, I can't even find it. Where is it? Let's see, John Marx's book, Manchurian Candidate. And by the way, that Jay Myers guy has literally ripped off everything. Like, he's got an MK Ultra documentary that has 1 million views. His Eyes Wide Shut stuff is literally directly from me and Jay Widener's show. And I get no, he doesn't even give he gives a shout out to Widener, but he doesn't give a shout out to me. That's okay. Everybody knows that I was here doing it first. Which, it's not hard. All you got to do is give people a footnote or credit. Like, that's the understood way to do this. I'm not bitching because... All right, now I can't even find the... let's see. John Marx. Oh, here it is. So if you want more of this specific topic, the other book from the 70s on this, here it is right here. The old talk I did a long time ago. Back in them old days when we had 3,000 subscribers, back in 2015. And thank God now we've almost got 30,000. We're growing. That's good stuff. Got a couple super chats here. Oh, my allergies going crazy. New England Publishing, thank you again. What is the plan for after the book release? What do you mean? The plan for after the release. Can you elaborate? In terms of culture creation, what would make a good populist rock band? Yeah, by the way, Jay Myers it's my book, my Eyes Wide Shut show and documentary that I did, and Fritz Springmeier. Like that, every one of his documentaries are literally just cropped from the research that's been there forever. And who is Jay Myers, by the way, and how come it's so close to Jay Dyer, by the way? I don't know what you mean by the plan for after the book release. I mean, the book will be released sometime in December. The publisher just sent me the final manuscript today or yesterday. It's at the printer today or Monday, whatever. Looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. There was a couple minor alterations. It's longer. The first one was 363 pages. This is like 408 pages. So you're getting extra girth, baby. Extra girth in E2. EH2. two. So the plan for the book release is to do the same shit I always do, is a bunch of podcasts and shows and promote it and tell people go to the website and buy it and not from Amazon. In terms of culture creation, what would be a good populist rock band? I don't know. I don't understand the question. Put a comment. I didn't mean to make you stress. I'm not stressed. Will I relax? No, dude, there's no time for relaxing. That's the thing about this job is there's no time off. There's no relaxing. If you take a day off, people unsubscribe and you suffer for it. There is no relaxing in this job. And now I'm on the YouTube treadmill of constant YouTube content. So there's no relaxing and there's no time off ever. But I don't know what you mean about a populist rock band and all culture creation rock band. Do you mean how could you have a real rock band that's positive? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. It's okay. It's not a weird question. It's just, I'm not sure. Yosemite Sam, $5. Worski was already in a downward spiral. You weren't the right fit, and it couldn't be saved. Andy seems to be doing better now. I mean, his streams seem to be decent. It was built on JF, and Andy couldn't sustain it. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any plans to unite on anybody else's show, or I'd really like to have somebody that I could comedically blend with, you know what I mean? Good chemistry with comedy wise, and we could like riff. And I really think, I don't know. I mean, I think I've never met Sam Hyde, never talked to Sam Hyde. I think we could do a great show. Like but he doesn't seem to do that kind of stuff. Like he just, I don't know, he keeps to himself. Somebody said email him. He doesn't seem to answer his DMs. I don't know. But I should be going on Benny Will's comedy podcast soon. Joy Camp has started a podcast, and Benny messaged me, and I was messaging him. We were talking about going on the Joy Camp podcast. So I'll be doing the Joy Camp podcast. Benny and I jive pretty good. We could do a good podcast, I think. But he's got, his crew and he got tired of the conspiracy stuff and then wanted to do more poetry stuff. So I don't know. I can't really find a good fit for, if you're going to do a duo trio show, you got to have the right chemistry or it won't work. So you got to have the same sense of humor. I don't know. But, I think Jay and Sam Hyde would be a perfect show. I mean, I don't think he would ever do it, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe people message him, say, hey, message Sam Hyde and say, do a show with Jay. And, I don't know. I mean, not to exclude the other $1 Million Extreme dudes. I mean, I like all those guys. Nick Rochefort and Charles Carroll, and they're all funny dudes. They might think I'm too crazy. I don't know. I might be too crazy for that, like too out there in the conspiracy world. A lot of people don't like conspiracy topics because they think it taints you. I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, everything I talk about gets freaking vindicated and is true. So, have you ever watched Hardware? Yes, I've seen Hardware multiple times. I was really close to doing a show on Hardware, and part of the problem was figuring out how to do this right, because it looks like YouTube is really just going to favor streams and long form content. So making the specific, video that's 15, 20, 30 minutes. I mean, you can still do it and it can still work if you have a big enough channel, but they really seem to just want to frame it and streams. And by the way, if I do a stream on a movie, I might make a little bit on the ad revenue, a little bit. I'm sorry. If I make a video, the ad revenue is a little bit, but if I do a stream and people do super chats, I can do a lot better with an analysis. So you see, and YouTube has it that way on purpose. They want you, the incentive is to stream and to do the long form content because YouTube wants people staying at YouTube and watching YouTube. That's why when you put a link up on Facebook to an external site, it's shadow banned automatically and you get 2 likes. If you put a meme up, you get 500 likes. It's the same across all the tech platforms because they don't want you leaving the platform. It's that simple. So anyway, I mean, yeah, I need to find a co-host. I mean, Jamie's going to be doing shows with me, so that'll be fun. But it'd be nice to have a comedic co-host that has the same weird sense of humor. But people don't want to do that. People got their own things going. I don't know. We'll see. See what happens. Yeah, I've watched Rob Ager. I mean, I cite Rob Ager and do footnotes in my book. By the way, this is how you do it. All you have to do, if you see something in somebody's thing and it's a good idea and you benefit from it, you do a footnote or you give them credit. It's really that easy. It's that hard. It's that simple. There's nothing to it. Some guy wrote a negative review of my podcast and said I rip everything off Rob Ager. No. If you read the Esoteric Hollywood Shining chapter, it's called a footnote. It gives Rob Ager credit for his points in The Shining. That's how it works in academia. That's what you do in research. This is in publishing. You don't get published if you don't do that. And so anyway, I like Rob Ager. We talked about Rob Ager on the stream I did 2 nights ago, The Thing and Prince of Darkness, John Carpenter stream. Talked about Rob Ager. I had an argument with him a long time ago in comments because he said there's nothing. Back then, he was like, there's nothing esoteric about 2001. I was like, what? So, anyway, my eyes are getting tired. We had a good stream, though. This has been great. Good audience. Nice. I'm going to have to... Saturday night's a good night to stream because all the nerds are at home.
All the nerds are at home. We got no girlfriends. We're going to watch the streamers.
I'm joking. I'm a nerd, too. Gabriel R. Man, my eyes are burning. No, wait. Let's see. A bit off topic. Are you familiar with Sisayev? Isn't he Gnostic or something? Oh no, that's the guy who was killed by the Muslims. I'm not familiar with his works, but I remember when that happened. I remember I was already well into Orthodox theology when that happened, but I've not read any of his works. No, I didn't know he actually had works. We will, by the way, be doing a hardware stream. So long story short. The way this seems to work good is to do a stream that's an hour and a half, an hour, and pick 3 or 4 movies. That's kind of the way I've been working with it. So I'll pick some B movies like Hardware that fit, and we'll do like, hour and a half stream, 2 hour stream with Hardware and some other movies like it. Oh, man, my eyes are burning. Gabriel R., do you think 9/11 served as a mass trauma event for mind control? Absolutely. We've talked about that in numerous podcasts. You can find some old Jay's analysis, 9/11. Just Google that. And, we talk about it as a mass mind control trauma event. Skeleton, $10. Love the Esoteric Boomer Twitch streams. Yeah, I mean, I thought that was fun, but a lot of people don't want to... Sam Hyde follows you on Twitter. Yeah, but he doesn't answer the DMs on that profile. Gab is gonzo. Oh, you mean Gab is going away? I mean, I wasn't ever really on Gab, so... I mean, I've had a thing on there, but, nobody was really putting much time into Gab, so... It's very difficult to compete with DARPA... CIA-funded tech companies, you know what I mean? Like, how do you compete with that? By the way, Esoteric Boomer, the Twitch streams playing, they weren't Boomer, but that's okay. Can we expect the Nick J Fortnite? Oh, you mean Nick Fuente? I've never played Fortnite. I don't know anything about it. So, does that make me a Boomer? Anyway, I need to find a comedian co-host. Tell Sam Hyde to come be my co-host. I give you the charge. If somebody can get Sam Hyde to message me back, I'll send you a free book. How's that? All right. Amazing night. Thank you very much. Hope you guys learned. We got into some good stuff. We were able to tie it to pop culture stuff. Marnie, we're still got Marnie over here. Great movie. If you've never seen the Hitchcock movie Marnie, it's a classic. A lesser known Hitchcock. Not everybody goes to Marnie. Everybody thinks about the more obvious Hitchcocks. But even I'm so tired. My mind's going blank. What's the even Psycho? He's dissociative and got alter demon stuff going on. So this is everywhere in pop culture, and it does have relevance to reality. Anyway, so thank you, Wicca Phase, for the t-shirts. Check out Wicca Phase music, the Goth Boy Click. And if there's not any more super chats, we'll go ahead and call it a night. Thank you guys. Again, the part 2 talk of Operation Mind Control by Walter Bort will be up in the next 2 or 3 days. Again, this is not the 150-page book. This is 300-page book, so it's a little bit longer. It takes me a little bit longer to get all the talks together. Thank you very much, all you super chatters. Very, 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 very deeply appreciated. Check out the stream that we did with Primal Edge Health. Check out The Thing, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness analysis that just went up. Those came out good. If you have the availability, attend the Divine Liturgy tomorrow if you can. God bless you guys, and have a good night.